Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept our humble obeisances. All glories to Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada, all glories to our revered speaker, His Grace PALAKA Prabhu, and all glories to the assembled Vaishnava devotees. Devotees, we thank you for being here today. As always, we are very much honored to have His Grace PALAKA Prabhu. And I am humbly proud to say he is my sweet, sweet, sweet God brother. For some reason, we've been able to get hold of him this time. It's so difficult to get hold of because he's just too busy. And we can see even today that he's able to be with us. He is still busy. But we will take it as it is. And without further ado, Prabhuji, you are very much welcome to your own home, Hare Krishna, Africa. And we may put the verse on the screen and then you take it over from here.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you for engaging. Thank everybody for joining.
Very well. Oh, Salika Prabhu. Okay, I think Salika is the host, so I have to switch.
Yeah, I'll give him back the host to you.
Oh, okay. All right. All right, Prabhuji, so thank you.
Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Daiva Dineshu Kameshu.
Daiva Dineshu Kameshu.
Daiva Dina Swayam Pumam.
Daiva Dina Swayam Pumam.
Ko Vishrambheta Yogena.
Ko Vishrambheta Yogena.
Yogeshwaram Manuvrata.
Yogeshwaram Manuvrata.
Daiva Dineshu Kameshu.
Daiva Dineshu Kameshu.
Daiva Dina Swayam Puman.
Daiva Dina Swayam Puman.
Ko Vishrambheta Yogena.
Ko Vishrambheta Yogena.
Yogeshwaram Manuvrata.
Yogeshwaram Manuvrata.
Daiva Dineshu Kameshu.
Daiva Dineshu Kameshu.
Daiva Dina Swayam Puman.
Daiva Dina Swayam Puman.
Ko Vishrambheta Yogena.
Ko Vishrambheta Yogena.
Yogeshwaram Manuvrataha.
Yogeshwaram Manuvrata.
Would anybody in the audience like to lead?
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Daiva Dineshu Kameshu.
Daiva Dineshu Kameshu.
Daiva Dina Swayam Puman.
Daiva Dina Swayam Puman.
Ko Vishrambheta Yogena.
Ko Vishrambheta Yogena.
Yogeshwaram Anuvrataha.
Yogeshwaram Anuvrataha. Daiva Dineshu Kameshu.
Daiva Dineshu Kameshu.
Daiva Dina Swayam Puman.
Daiva Dina Swayam Puman.
Ko Vishrambheta Yogena.
Ko Vishrambeta Yogena
Yogena
Yogeshwaram Manovrataha.
Yogeshwaram Manuvrataha. Okay, go into the transliteration. Daiva, supernatural. Adineshu, being controlled. Kameshu, in sense enjoyment. Daiva, adinaha, controlled by supernatural force. Swayam, himself. Puman, living entity. Ka, whoever. Vishrambeta, can have faith in. Yogena, by devotional service. Yogeshwaram, the Supreme Lord. Anuvrataha, serving. Translation. Every living entity is controlled by a supernatural force. Thus, his sense enjoyment is also under the control of that supernatural force. No one, therefore, can put his faith in Lord Krishna's transcendental sense activities, but one who has become a devotee of the Lord by rendering devotional service. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, no one can understand the transcendental birth and activities of the Lord. The same fact is herein corroborated. No one who is enlightened by the devotional service of the Lord can understand the difference between the Lord's activities and those of others who are controlled by that supernatural force. The sense enjoyment of all animals, men, and demigods within the purview of the material universe is controlled by the supernatural force called Prakriti, or Daivi Maya. No one is independent in obtaining sense enjoyment, and everyone in this material world is after sense enjoyment. Persons who are themselves under the control of supernatural power cannot believe that Lord Krishna is not under any control beyond himself in the matter of sense enjoyment. They cannot understand that his senses are transcendental. In the Brahma Samhita, the Lord's senses are described as omnipotent. With any sense, he can perform the activities of the other senses. One who has limited senses cannot believe that the Lord can eat by his transcendental power of hearing and can perform the act of sex life simply by seeing. The controlled living entity cannot even dream of such sense activities in his conditional life. Let me read that again. The controlled living entity cannot even dream of such sense activities in his conditional life. But simply by the activities of bhakti yoga, he can understand that the Lord and his activities are always transcendental. As the Lord says in the Bhagavad Gita, Bhakti mam abhijananti yan yas chasmi yavan yas chasmi tatvataha. One cannot know even a fraction of the Lord's activities if he is not a pure devotee of the Lord. Jai. Om Gyana Timirandasya Gyana Jana Shalakaya Chakshor Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narotman Daivim Saraswatim Vyasan Tato Jayam Dirayet Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Sva Padanti Kam Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shri Mati Bhakti Tirtha Swami Itinamane Namaste Krishna Padaya Prabhupada Shri Tatvane Shri Gora Kruvana Shakti Bhakti Tirtha Swami Itinamane Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavari Pastyatyare Tarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vansha Kalpa Turbhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So what a a powerful verse that is contextualizing this chapter, where Lord Krishna is shown to have his activities outside of Dwarka. And some people may look and say, okay, Krishna's acting like an ideal king. He has, or some will say more than an ideal king with 16,108 wives. He's doing so many supernatural activities. How are we to understand this? How are we to say that he is not within the same jurisdiction that we are, as we are going through our day-to-day life of birth, death, old age, and disease, and trying to maintain our occupation? And so in this purport, Srila Prabhupada is mentioning how we cannot understand these activities, and the translation itself is saying we cannot understand these activities at all if we don't have devotional service as part of our repertoire. Now, what I would like to do is, before I go into some of my thoughts on this verse, I do have a hard stop at the top of the hour, so it's going to be a short class today, but I would like to open up to the audience first to see what points, if people could maybe give a sentence or two of what stands out to them, and then I would like to add that to the discussion today. Is there anything about this verse from this chapter that stands out to people?
Well, Hare Krishna, if I may speak, I'll say what stands out to me is how whatever we are doing in this material world is under the control of a supernatural force. So in order for me to even order what I just said, it's being controlled by a higher force.
Yes.
I'm like a vegetable. Now, this higher force, I don't know this higher force. If this higher force is like an enemy I have in this material world and it doesn't like me, then it's going to put me in big trouble. So I don't know. But if I'm being controlled by a higher force, then my situation is quite a serious predicament, especially if the controller is not a friend.
Yes. No, it's a great point, right? It was right there in the verse talking about the supernatural force controlling us. And you're bringing up the point of, well, how do I know if this supernatural force is controlling me, even my thoughts? How do I know it has my best intentions in mind? So that's a very, very, thank you for that. Anyone else?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
The statement that every living entity is controlled by supernatural force. Generally, we don't think we are controlled. We think we are independent. We think I'm the one doing what I'm doing. And what are you telling me about supernatural force again? Except if somebody is a devotee, he has knowledge, but ordinarily, we think I'm independent. I'm doing what I want to do. I'm a free person. And even if God exists, I don't know.
Yes. Thank you for sharing that. It's very important to understand our thoughts on free will. We feel like we can just get up. Hey, we're the ones that chose to put this laptop on or put this computer on. We're the ones that chose to get this Zoom class going. But the verse is saying something different, right? So it's good. It's a good meditation to have on where we are currently. Anyone else? Thank you for sharing.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, to accept my own obeisance. I was going to Srila Prabhupada and accept my devotees. So I was thinking, just knowing that everything is controlled. You know, for example, I don't know if you remember that famous prophet used to say he is the greatest, Muhammad Ali. I don't know if you know about Muhammad Ali.
Oh, Muhammad Ali. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I was thinking he's the greatest, but then little did you know that he was greater than the greatest. I'm saying that. So to think that whatever we do, we are being controlled. As a matter of fact, recently I read that Krishna say, have the senses in mind, but he said also that what you're thinking is also controlled by Krishna. In other words, no, you can go beyond the limits. I'm saying, wow, I mean, so it's
Yeah.
humbling, Prabhu. It's humbling. He said, say, what are we doing? We are controlled, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. So we better surrender, right? Even if we don't surrender, we're already surrendered. That's good. That's good. Anyone else? Thank you.
Yeah, but Prabhu, Hare Krishna. Yeah, so if I desire to walk, I just get up and walk. If I want to drink water, I just stretch my hand, get a cup, take the water and drink. Whatever I want to do, I just get up and do it. So how are you going to convince me that what I'm doing is controlled by somebody?
Yeah.
Because if I don't decide to do anything, then nothing happens. So if I'm controlled by somebody, then that thing should push me automatically to do things.
Yeah.
But things are done based on my own desires. So how do you convince me that whatever I'm doing is controlled by a higher force?
Yes. No, it's a very good point, right? Because it's kind of to what Madhuvan Prabhu was talking about,
Yeah.
right? We feel as though we are in control of everything that we're doing. So we'll definitely touch upon that. Anyone else? Thank you for sharing. Okay, I think that's some good feedback and realizations or appreciations about the verse that we can circle upon, and please let's make this as conversational as possible. So it's interesting when we think about that concept of free will, right? And we think about the micro free will of, hey, yeah, if I want to move my hand up, I just move my hand up, move it down, move it down. But what SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM has been discussing with this supernatural force is saying that there's a supernatural force that is controlling all of us. So even once we are desiring to enjoy what we can enjoy, and even what we are desiring to enjoy is all set in many ways, because we can't control our external environments, and we can barely control our internal environments. And it's all coming from that person, that entity, that consciousness that is beyond sense perception, adoksaja, that which is beyond sense perception. Srila Prabhupada loves to refer to Krishna as that adoksaja. We cannot perceive them, right? When we think about our epistemology and our three phases of knowledge that we accept as, how do we know anything? The first one is through our sense perception, right? Looking around as you're driving, you're saying, hey, I'm making this left turn, I'm making this right turn. If I throw the ball in the air, it's going to fall down. And so through your sense perception, you're going to come up with certain ideas that seem to be believable. Then we have our logical side, our rational side, where we have to understand that, hey, even though our senses may not be able to perceive it, we can put two and two together. We can put the mathematical equations to then make logical deductions on reality itself, right? Logic and that conceptualized thinking is our second way that we accept to be a way of knowing. And naturally, the third is from authorized sources. And so it's shabda, right? Through sound vibration, as we're hearing from the guru, as we are hearing from those who have realized and recognized and understood the truth, then they are imparting this knowledge that goes beyond the first two sources of information. Now, those first two sources of information are not going to contradict the shabda response, right? So it's not like we're saying, hey, you have shabda, and then that makes no sense in relationship to the first two. No, it's saying use this as the guide to then understand what we're going through with what we're seeing with our senses and what we're seeing with our mental faculties, our mind and intelligence. And so one point that is brought up in this verse is that the absolute truth can perform one function, it can perform the sense instrument that any other sense can do, right? So he can see with his ears, he can procreate just with his eyes, And Srimad Bhagavatam explains that this whole creation process, including everything that you're going through right now, is from him glancing at that supernatural power that is controlling us. And so it's explained that the absolute truth was a Satchidananda, eternally true, always true in all circumstances, right? When we talk about the biggest of the biggest, the smallest of the smallest, that knowledge that is not partial knowledge, but is that complete knowledge. That is that absolute truth, that all attractive knowledge, that all attractive identity. When he glances at that supernatural force and impregnates her with the jivas, that agitates the three modes, which is the cause of everything else within this material reality. And so Srimad Bhagavatam refers to him as Brahma, Lord Shiva, and Vishnu, right? And so creation, maintenance, and destruction. So he's saying that once those three modes get agitated, then we have the Mahatattva, which is, you know what? I have a little clip I'd like to share, a little quick video, if that's okay. That I think will go along with this discussion. Sure. Okay. Everybody see my screen? So,
Yes.
is it full screen or is it just partial?
I'll say full screen.
It is full screen?
Yes.
Okay, so it's just a 2-minute video.
Okay.
And what it does is it starts out talking about how the holy names of Sri Hari are surely all that be. And that's what we were just discussing, is that absolute truth, that oneness. Now we understand it comes in three different components of Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan, but it's that non-changing truth. It's the body of Lord Krishna, non-different. Everything is contained within that. Now, those who have understood the truth, they're understanding that, and something that we all can understand with this supernatural energy, is that there is another component within called prakriti, or temporary reality. And that's why I was indicated by the blinking. It's sometimes there, sometimes not, sometimes there, sometimes not. And within that reality, once she is impregnated, Mother Nature, those three modes, sattva, rajas, and tamas, are at a sleeping state. Srimad Bhagavatam constantly says that the intelligence, our awareness, has three major phases. It's when we're awake, when we're dreaming, and then when we are in a deep sleep, right? It's sattva, rajas, tamas. It's a continuous pattern that keeps on going. And this pattern evolves based off of our desires. So it's almost like a ripple effect within this infinite ocean of Brahman. So like I was just talking about, Mahatattva is the basis of it all. We can understand this also to be almost like the moral sense, our purpose. How do we see ourselves in relationship to Mother Nature and to the absolute truth? Some think that we are the enjoyer, and some say, no, we're to actually serve, right? But that dichotomy creates those desires and that ripple effect that we then are going to bring us into the further manifestation of reality. So it says that sattva comes first. Sattva comes out. Why? Because that's actually what we can detect while we are in these physical bodies. Now, sattva is of a subtle nature, but we can understand that it's coming first because it's coming from Lord Vishnu. Lord Vishnu is known to be Satchidananda. The qualities of sattva are happiness and knowledge. And so how do we know it? How can we deduce where we are at? Because we will have a long-term happiness and knowledge. Once that's how we can detect it. We may not be able to see it with our physical eyes, but within our consciousness, we will be able to detect that. From sattva comes the ego. Now the ego is going to have three major areas. It's the sattva ego, the rajas ego or passion, and then the ego in ignorance. These first two, sattva and rajas, are going to be the foundation of our mental faculties. And so when people say, hey, I'm raising my hand, I'm the one that wants to do that, I'm the one that's deciding to do that, it's coming from the first two modes, right? It's coming from sattva and rajas and some conglomeration of that based off of our previous life activities and our current activities up into what we were doing yesterday or even that morning, because everything that we're doing is going to be influenced at and making a new pattern. From sattva evolves the mind, which is naturally in goodness. Now, the animals have that, and they don't have the next phase, which is coming out of rajas, or as developed as we do, which is intelligence. This whole conversation that we're having right now, before we even get to devotion, is we are able to put these categories in these small buckets, right? These infinite terms into these small buckets. So that's the instrument, right? Because we're talking about the sense, this sense perception. They're basically instruments, right? The five senses are instruments. The intelligence is an instrument. The mind is an instrument. Who's powering this for us? Now, from this evolution, SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM explains that we have controllers of our reality. Now, these are in the subtle level. We have the sense of hearing, the sense of touch, the sense of seeing, the sense of taste, and the sense of smell. These are called the controllers or the devas of our reality, our day-to-day. So before we actually interact, this is not even getting into our physical objective reality. This is still just the subtle reality. The devas are controlling all of that based off of what type of modes we are in. Now, science also has corroborated this. They can see that when somebody's making a decision, the neural pathways that decisions are going to be made are showing up before the person actually consciously is aware of that decision being made. So when people think, hey, I'm making this decision, even modern day science can show by the neural brain waves that most of these decisions are happening before they're even people are consciously aware of. Now, SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM is saying that this is happening due to the devas that are controlling our reality. And so it's evolving from the mode of passion. Then from there, and this is all breaking out the architecture of that supernatural force. From there, we have the five sources of action: speech, grasping, moving, elimination, and procreation. And so this is all on the subtle realm. This is all things that are happening within mind before we even think about the physical reality. And so one thing we want to think about when we're looking at our desires are that our bodies are almost limitations compared to our mental bodies that we have based off of the mind, intelligence, and ego. When we're thinking about our speech, all the speech that we're having, the thought processes, the patterns, those are all taking place in the mind, and they are of three types, predominantly in goodness, passion, or ignorance. So when Sahadev Prabhu was saying, hey, who's actually controlling this? How can I actually align myself to make sure that it's going to be for my best, my greatest, my highest good? SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM saying, hey, for those who are trying to progress in spiritual life, try to associate with the devas as much as possible. The devas are naturally in the mode of goodness. And so if we can align our lifestyles to be in the mode of goodness, then that will help us and give us an easier time to then do transcendental devotional service, because our mind will be more at peace. Whereas if we associate with passion and ignorance, those are also different subtle entities that then can take control and dominate our thought processes and our consciousness, that will then dictate what happens when we move to the side of ignorance. And so from there, the subtle elements, not the physical, but the sense of sound, the sense of touch, the sense of sight, the sense of taste, and the sense of smell, those all evolve. because we keep on talking about the subtle to the external, external to the internal. So when we have our subtle or our internal, even on the most ignorant part of reality, which is our objective reality, that also has an external and internal form. So from sound, that's what creates space. We can see that with the atom, with the electron and the neutron and the proton. Even though it's so densely compact, there's nothing but space in between it. It says that if we were actually able to look at the atom and scale it up to the size of a baseball field, that the nucleus of the atom would be like first base and the electron would be almost right where you're hitting a home run. In between that is nothing but space. It's sound vibrations that are there. And so even modern science is understanding that we're made up of nothing but space. It says that if we were to take all the human beings on Earth and remove space, remove the sound vibration in between them, we could fit them all into a sugar cube. That's how much space there actually is. And so SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM has been talking about this, knowing this, and saying that these sound vibrations are all coming from your subtle body. Our subtle body is all based off of the different subtle entities that are there, from the angelic, Devic type of entities to the yakshas and asura type of entities. And it's depending on where we're associating, how we are forming out our day. And SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM, 3rd Canto, chapter 20, it discusses how Lord Brahman goes about his creation process. Now, we should understand Lord Brahman to be the mode of passion. And as he is creating, it says that he starts creating various forms of ignorance, where people will think that after this death, there's nothing else, all these types of ignorance. And he said he had to shake off that body. He had to shake off that body, and that became night, right? That became night. And the yakshas took charge of that. That's where the hunger and all of these different plagues that we have to deal with, right? We think we have control, but how long can we go without eating? We think we have control, but how long can we go without sleeping? We think we have control, but drink a gallon of water. How long can we go without having to go to the bathroom, right? And so we have to choose how we are living off of other living entities. This is a brutal world. You know, sometimes I talk to people and they're just like, hey, no, this world is nice, it's great, it's fantastic. And it was just like, just think if there was, 50-foot tall humans walking around that were eating other humans, like giants walking around, just stuffing people in their mouth and eating them. It's like, that would be barbaric. Nobody would want to live there. But that's how most of the animal kingdom is, right? It's like animals just eating other animals. And then we're going through chopping trees down, eating other plants. We are literally killing other living entities just to survive. It's barbaric. It's a tough place. But that's what we're doing. And SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM is saying that's not just happening on the physical level. It's happening on the subtle level, where we are aligning our consciousness to the divine or the demonic. And Lord Brahma is giving his body to various times a day to let us know, are you going to try to live like Lord Krishna was showing, where he was waking up early in the morning, waking up for Mangal Artik, even though his wives were saying, no, don't leave us. He still, by example, showed what proper varnashram should look like by meditating in the morning. The Mangal Artik time is that of the mode of goodness. It's where the devas are. It's where you're going to get the most blessings to help tune your subtle consciousness. So your desires that you have are going to lead to a more positive and productive route. When dusk came, he saw the asuras, and the asuras tried to chase him and get him, right? And it says when he prayed to Lord Vishnu, say, hey, these, help me. I don't know what to do. I'm trying to do your service, and these asuras are trying to get me. And he said, cast off that body, and that became dusk. How many times have we seen that we try to enjoy a little bit longer than we should at nighttime, right? And we know we should wake up early. It's going to lead to the best results. But I see myself, when I'm trying to get a little bit more out of the day, get a little more enjoyment out, then I'm looking at life in the same way the asuras do, right? When he cast off his body, they said, what beautiful girl playing with the ball, hiding in the shadows like an eternal youth, right? The time factor is always moving. But those who are going to get caught up in that cycle are saying, hey, this moment, maybe it can last forever. I know I should be preparing, I should be sacrificing, I should be going to sleep, but maybe it will last forever. So these subtle entities, these are the universal government that's occurring. They are observing all of our activities, all of our desires, and based off of what that supernatural energy is providing to us, both externally and internally, based off of how we are trying to serve or not serve, they are creating these ripple effects for us that eventually will create our space. It will create our feelings internally and externally. It's going to create what we see internally and externally. So there's one thing that we're seeing, the road or the Zoom, but as you look at your day-to-day life, you think about the previous week that you had. What did you see? If you had to encapsulate that last week, and you can do this for any time frame, any experience, what type of taste did it leave in your mouth? What did you see from that experience, from that lesson that Paramatma was showing us, right? Because we're seeing that this is all manifesting from Paramatma himself. And we're thinking that this is us, this is us, this is us, but it's nothing but the three modes interacting. And so our subtle body can encapsulate that space. How do we see that situation? If we have an altercation with a devotee, or if we have a good time at work or a bad time, it doesn't matter. All of our experiences, how do we see it? What type of judgments do we put on it with our intelligence? How do we categorize it with our intelligence? What moral sense do we gain from it? And how do we use that to serve and offer back to that original source? And so with all these physical elements, just understand that they all are actually subtle in nature, or we should process them more subtle in nature, because that's what we actually experience within our consciousness. And so our Guru Parampara, they are geniuses at explaining how to consciously elevate ourselves within our day-to-day existence via devotional service. And so they're saying, look, everything that we have experienced, is all coming from that one source. And because they have that relationship, because they are doing that service, they are now within some of the most deep parts of relationships to that absolute truth. It's not that this absolute truth has to give itself to everyone, even though he is giving himself to everyone. But if they don't have that purity of heart, then they're getting the three modes or some variation of it. And then their consciousness is like that of a leaf that's on a river, a tumultuous river. And sometimes the leaf is up, sometimes it's down, sometimes it's drowning, sometimes it's enjoying, sometimes it's suffering. And they really have no control, because the three modes, even in goodness, yes, it says go to goodness, but don't get stuck there, because it's going to go back down. It's temporary in nature until you get to Shuddha Sattva. And so our acharyas are saying, attach ourselves to that portions of life that is not temporary. And we can analyze all of that supernatural energy to be like a gold bracelet or gold earrings. It still comes from gold, that absolute truth. And it's only due to our false ego that says, hey, this is something separate. This is not gold. This is a gold earring. And therefore, this gold earring, this gold bracelet is meant for me to enjoy. And our charge is saying, no, take that gold earring and offer it back. Take that gold bracelet and offer it back, whether it comes in the form of any of these physical or subtle elements that are presented to us by Mother Nature. And so they're looking at it and they're seeing that, hey, I was recently talking to somebody and they're saying, why do all these gurus, these Sadgurus and Ramdases and most of these people that are in the spiritual lane, why are they all impersonalists? Why aren't they talking about God as a person? And it's because, hey, if you listen to a lot of what they're saying, they're talking about it in a sense of we will do service in order to then become God. I've heard people say that. I heard even like a Shivite worshiper, they're saying, hey, I'm going to worship Shiva until I can then kill Shiva, basically. It was like, I will become Shiva. And it was almost as blunt as that. And I was just like, how do they think that they can outsmart the divine energy that they're worshiping, right? They're going to be put in a bucket of some sort that's not going to be the most intimate. But when we're seeing that the gopis and those who actually love Krishna and Vrindavan, those who don't even care that he has all the opulence, they just love him for him, then he's going to reveal a completely different Leela to them. They're going to have a completely different relationship for them. And so Lord Krishna is giving us his example and his Leela on how to actually construct our life to see these three modes, but actually how we can address them by organizing our day, by doing our occupation within our temporary occupation within Varnashram, but then also helping people to set up the different protective mechanisms against the three modes, or to work with the three modes in harmony with the devas via brahmachari, grihastha, vanaprastha, etc., with the proper teachers that are there to align our individual consciousness and our collective consciousness together. And how fortunate we are that within this Kali Yuga, Lord Krishna has come with that eternal consciousness to spread divine love via Lord Chaitanya. And it's saying, hey, look at everything that we have and spread the holy name, not just individually through our japa meditation where we can connect via devotion, but then also use what SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM has provided to say, look and categorize everything that we see at every moment within these buckets, these 24 buckets of Sankhya, to understand and show evidence to your senses that this is all coming from Govinda, the absolute truth, that which can protect and please all of our senses. And when we come together as a collective and propagate the chanting and the devotional service, then it's even more beautiful. And the Leela and the taste of life becomes even more divine. I'm running out of time, so I just wanted to share that. Was there any questions or comments before we wrap?
Well, Hare Krishna, thank you so much for the graphical presentation. It makes a lot of sense. I'm not, devotees, does anyone have questions to ask before the speaker wraps it up? Prabhuji, I just wanted to say, excuse me, how beautiful it is that you explaining this transcendental knowledge in such graphical, scientific manner. And just by looking on the screen and seeing all the different modes and how their interaction bring about different things like the different subtle senses. It's very intriguing and very interesting. Very, very interesting. Now, my question is, without the form, which is here represented by fire, how does the other senses or feelings come about? Without a form, is it possible to taste? Is it possible to smell? Is it possible to touch? So how does the form come about? It appears to me that the form, which is here represented by fire, is very, very important. And so the two questions I have is it possible that without form, without fire, the other senses can come about and can be felt and experienced? And how does the form or the fire itself come about?
So, okay, no, thank you for that, the comment and question. So one thing that Srimad Bhagavatam is saying is that it all starts from the subtle, right? And so before we get to any of these activities within tamaguna, right, which is our physical objective reality, it all starts with the desires that are happening within our subtle body. And so in the same way that right now you don't have a can of cinnamon in front of you, but you can recall how cinnamon smells. Where is that occurring? Right? There's with any one of these five senses, right? Whether it's a eucalyptus, you're gonna say, hey, I do have a sense of what eucalyptus smells like, even though physically there's no eucalyptus around you, right? Or chandan or rasagullas or you name it, right? There's a sense of smell that you are able to pull from to say, hey, I can somehow, I'm able to conceive it. It might not be as tangible as its physical presence, but I'm able to associate with it through my thoughts in some way, shape, or form. Now, Srimad Bhagavatam is saying that once we start to desire these different activities, eventually that sound vibration gets created in our mind. And from that sound vibration, then, and it's saying due to sex desire, that sound vibration then creates the physical forms, right? Which is space, air, touch, fire. So with fire, it's our sense of sight, right? Like, how can you see? What do you see? How do you see the form? How do you distinguish between one object from another object? Like when the sun's coming up and you can't really see the trees, you can't see the forest, but then once that light hits it, then all of a sudden you start seeing the silhouette of the trees. And so mentally, the absolute truth is called the light of all experiences, the Jyotish, something like that. And so it's the light that provides all experiences. And so mentally, what are we seeing? What form are we trying to take when we're looking at our goals or when we're looking at our past, right? How are we encapsulating it? How are we seeing it as things that are favorable towards devotional service or things that are not favorable towards devotional service? How are we putting that together, right? Understanding that Krishna is always there to protect us. Do we see that, or do we put it in a different light? Do we put it in a different form? And then if we are putting it in a different form, is that form more of a sattvic nature, rajasic nature, or tamasic nature? Mother Durga says, when she is in the mode of goodness, she is Lakshmi. When she is in the mode of passion, she is Mother Saraswati. When she is in the mode of ignorance, she is Kali. And so the Gita talks about this tree that we have to cut down with our sense of attachment. But this tree is creating all types of forms that we associate within our mind based off of our consciousness. And so how do we place our day-to-day activities? And so it's all subtle. So I heard this quote that is simple but very powerful. It's that we don't have a mind and our body, but we have a body and our mind, right? And so it's our body is actually resting in mind, which is further resting in intelligence and resting in ego. So it's a lot more weak than it may appear to be with our mental faculties, and how we're linking all of this to that absolute truth is actually way more predominant because it has all five physical senses and capabilities in an unlimited fashion, or a much more expansive fashion. Just like if you want to travel, you don't have to have the physical limitations of the body, where you can be in New York right now, just a split second, or India in a split second, where the body has a lot more trouble doing that.
Well, thank you so much for the explanation. But again, I am I am wondering how these three different divisions of the ego, which is as a result of the influence of the material modes of nature, goodness, passion, ignorance. The sattva is what is yielding us the mind, or giving us the mind. And then the raja is what is giving us the intelligence. And we know the intelligence is superior to the mind. If the intelligence is superior to the mind, how does raja, which is supposed to be subordinate to sattva, give us something higher than what sattva is giving us? I don't know if you get my question.
Yes. No. It's one that I have meditated on for a long time. I think it's a great question.
Yeah.
And if you look at other schools of Sankhya, they'll actually put Raja before the ego.
Okay.
I'm sorry, the intelligence before the ego. Sorry. They'll actually put so in Sanskrit, intelligence is buddhi. And so they'll actually put that before the ego. And I was saying, my gut instinct was saying that's how it should be. Right? But SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM says, no, it's coming out of Raja. And the way I understand that is it helps you, it says the quality of intelligence helps you to make correct apprehensions on nature or misapprehensions, right? It says to correctly apprehend or misapprehend. And so we all know what misapprehension is, right? When people think things that they're not. But when you have correct apprehension, in the 11th canto, Krishna says, through our intelligence, through the Sankhya process, because Sankhya is mentioned almost all throughout the 11th canto, this diagram. And for all those who are not familiar, I would highly encourage to become very familiar and then revisit the 11th canto, and I guarantee you'll get even more insight from it. But they're saying that we are all caught up in this bamboo forest of entanglement with these three modes. And so they're saying, the question was, well, how can you use your intelligence, which is also a byproduct of the three modes of Raja, to get free of it? Because it's going to be trapped in and of itself. And SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM says that through the words of the Guru and the instructions of the Vedas, that it becomes, with the intelligence, it's like two bamboo stalks rubbing together. And through that rubbing together, it will actually create a fire of purification on the whole force of entanglement. And then through that fire of purification, it will actually extinguish itself. And then once you use your intelligence to burn all of these attachments from the ego, it will actually dissolve itself. And once you are at that point, then you are with the absolute truth, and you can then put aside the intelligence also. And so that's how.
Very interesting. Very interesting how SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM addresses this concept. But as you were speaking, it was making sense to me in a way, in the sense that I had read somewhere where Srila Prabhupada said that actually everyone in this material world is primarily controlled by passion.
Yes.
So from the passion, sometimes we enter into sattva, sometimes we enter into tamas. So depending on how we use the intelligence, like you were explaining, then we may find ourselves in the sattva gun, or we might find ourselves in the tamas gun. But basically, everybody is under the influence of this Raj ego.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
My goodness.
Yes. Just to be to be eligible for planet Earth as a human being. It's
that is making sense from this saying that from passion comes compassion. Yeah.
Share more.
When we have passion, which is Raja Gun, then when it is properly utilized, then we become compassionate, which is Sattva. And I think it says from the pastimes of, I've forgotten the name of this sage who was lusty after a prostitute, and the prostitute made him a devotee. The name comes and goes. But from his lusty desires, he developed.
Biva Mangala.
Biva, thank you so much. Oh my God, that's cool. Yeah, from his intense lust, when he was able to convert that to Sattva and even Shuddha Sattva, then he was able to become an amazing devotee. We see even some of the gopis, they were actually lusty after Krishna. Really lusty, not love, but from that lust, it was converted to become love. And I think it's in line when Gurudev, His Holiness Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj, also wrote this one series of his spiritual warrior, transforming lust into love. So it's making sense to me now as I kept thinking as you were speaking.
Yeah, no, I really like how you put the whole from passion comes compassion, and thinking about this chapter, how Lord Krishna was talking about Varnashram, right? And when we think about Varnashram, those who are mixed with goodness and passion, the Kshatriyas, right? What are they? They're actually the ones that are supposed to be extremely compassionate, so much so that they will give their lives protecting other people. You know, they will give their own life protecting other people. That's taking that passion and being utmost compassionate when they're aligned to their purpose. And then individually, taking what you just said is, we have to be compassionate towards our future selves, right? It's, if we're not doing the right activities now, then our future selves are going to suffer, right? Whether that's materially or spiritually, right? With our temporary dharma or our eternal dharma. And so it's taking that passion, saying, hey, I am going to actively do the right thing in this moment to be compassionate towards my future selves, the future generation of Vaishnavas, the future generation of family members, the future generation of friends that I have, and Mother Earth ultimately, right? And so, yeah, I love that. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for sharing this amazing wisdom with us today. Dear devotees, does anyone have something to add, ask, or share?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Shri Govinda Prabhu. Please, you may go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. My respectful obeisances to you. My obeisances to Guru Maharaj, my obeisances to the devotees. And thank you very much for this wonderful presentation.
Well, thank you for kicking it off. I would love to hear your answer. I know I tiptoed around the free will. That's a very deep topic. So I would love to hear your how you would answer it.
Oh man. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
Somebody's trying to call my number. Yes, Prabhu. I really appreciate your presentation, and it's really, really deep. And I'm very, very proud of you. And I'm also very much thankful to Guru Maharaj for empowering you. And I'm praying that Guru Maharaj continue to give you that empowerment. And I'm also praying that Guru Krishna will help you to
Nothing
give
like was
yourself
on.
more and more to them. And I believe Guru and Krishna will really use you as a very good instrument for the liberation for some of us and future generations to come. So thank you very, very much. Thank you.
No, thank you for your
And
inspiration.
yes,
Thank you.
I really appreciate your talk. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Nandavats, thank you for your words of encouragement.
Hare Krishna, thank you. It's great to be here, Prabhu. I see Parvati Devi here. Is Parvati Devi my big sister from Cleveland? Or somebody else? Madam Parvati, please you may unmute, if possible. Well, maybe later. Madam Prabhu, I saw you had your hand up. Please you unmute and go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much for your very wonderful lecture and your technical analysis. From all the discussion, I didn't hear anything about the demigods, because I want to believe that the demigods are programs our senses, sense of touch, and even the movement of the body, the legs, the eyes. I believe there are different demigods in charge.
Yes.
The controlling deity of these different senses. So I don't know what their position is in this our discussion. Okay.
You said the last sentence.
We are talking of.
Sorry.
We are talking of controllers.
Yes.
So, and I believe demigods they are also involved in our ability to control our senses. So I wanted to see how they are related with our activities or the control of our senses.
Yes.
Hare Krishna.
Yes. So yes, the SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM explains that 5 major controllers are what we're seeing here right under Rajas. And it's our sense of hearing, our sense of touch, our sense of sight, our sense of taste, and our sense of smell. So a lot of times people say, oh, it's the demigods and it's they're all in the heavenly planets. But Bhagavatam is saying, no, they are actually controlling our physical reality, that our interface, how we're actually processing this reality are the demigods themselves. And so when we're thinking about desires, naturally, there's ways that we can become more peaceful with our desires, right? And Leadership for Age of Higher Consciousness, I like the example that Gurudev gives where he says it's like a scale. And as we do good, then the scale is going to go up. And then as we do bad, the scale is going to go down. But we have to get to that equilibrium, right? That's the sattva state. And so through doing our purpose, through doing our temporary dharma, like Arjuna was talking about on the Gita, or Krishna was talking to Arjuna on the Gita, saying, hey, don't run away from this battle. You have a purpose within this life, just like everyone else that has taken birth. Every aspect of life has a purpose. But then also understand, especially with Lord Chaitanya's message, is we have an eternal purpose that we all have to connect to. And so through connecting to our eternal purpose, then the devas, then our senses will become more and more in line. And our desires, the more they reach to sattva, then our desires will become more satisfied and more peaceful. I was looking at even the dopamine aspects in the brain, and it completely corresponds with what Lord Krishna is saying in the Gita in terms of endeavor, but don't think about the result. Don't be concerned with the result. Do your duty. What right do you have? You don't have a right to the fruits of your action. You just have the rights to do proper action, right? And we understand that being eternal servant of Krishna, what that proper action is, and we are to discover the intimacies and the intricacies of those actions via the guru. But we are to stay aligned with that higher intelligence, understanding that ultimately, even beyond Mother Durga's body, that this is all Krishna's body. We all are part of Krishna. So the more we align to that via our purpose, but we're not going to be able to understand our purpose temporarily unless we are more in the mode of goodness as much as possible. So it's highly important to think about these activities that align, understand as we are going through a life, there's logical methods of seeing it in terms of if it's immediate gratification, be suspicious of it. It's probably the mode of passion. If it tastes a little bitter at first, but then has a long-lasting happiness or signs of life after that, it's typically the mode of goodness. Bad at the beginning, bad at the end, mode of ignorance. And so using these as guidelines will help bring peace to the senses, but ultimately through devotional service, through sadhu sangha, through the words of the guru will bring us that long-lasting control, and the devas will actually help us. But if we keep on associating with the rajas and tamas, then the devas will help us to get more and more out of control.
Beautiful. So beautiful. Well, thank you
That's
so
amazing.
much, Madhava Prabhu, for the question, and Palaka Prabhu.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Pravina Prabhu, please, you may go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare
Back
Krishna.
again.
Yes.
Let me quickly ask this question. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Harinam, 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 Iva Kaivalam, Kalu Nasti, Iva Nasti, Nasti Iva Gati Anyata. Harinam, 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 Iva Kaivalam. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying in this age of Kali Yuga, the only solution to the problem of the people in Kali Yuga is the holy name of the Lord. And he said in this age, there's no other way, there's no other way, there's no other way than the glorification of the names of Krishna. And again, it is said that Krishna's Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said Krishna has invested his energies into his names. It means that Krishna has many names. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu specifically gave us the Maha Mantra to chant. So my question is, and when you break the Maha Mantra into local English language, the meaning is very simple. So what actually purifies the mind? Is it the sound vibration of the Maha Mantra or the meaning of the mantra? I'm asking this because there are so many sounds going on, many sound vibrations everywhere in the ether, and people are chanting different names of Krishna. They have different meanings, but they are chanting in a way. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gives us specifically Maha Mantra, and we know the meaning of the Maha Mantra. So is it the meaning of the name of the Lord that purifies the mind, or the language of the sound that purifies the mind? And if it does, then how does it have effect on the mind?
It's a great question. It's a great question. I'd love to hear other people comment on this, but this is I think it's a fantastic question, because I have heard Srila Prabhupada talk about how people can chant various names of God and definitely have different purification and contact with the divine through various names, right? The analogy of there's one sun in the sky and it has an infinite amount of names. There's those quotes. And then there's the fact that we understand with our teachings from Lord Chaitanya that Lord Krishna's name is no different than Krishna the person. And so from what Lord Chaitanya has provided, from my understanding, it's the name itself. The name is non-different from Krishna. And so as you are chanting, you're going to purify all of the senses that you are viewing reality with to various degrees. Again, depending on your surrender, depending on how much mercy you're actually getting in terms of your own consciousness, but the name in and of itself is non-different from Krishna. So any association with it is going to be like entering into a beautiful purificatory fire that helps to erase the false ego and the false impressions that we have while we're going through life. There's another part where Lord Srila Prabhupada says that the absolute truth has no name. He has a name based off of his activities. He's known by his activities. And so these various names in various religions are referring to God based off of those activities that they know him by, right? And so I feel like it's a question of first connecting to that eternal, right? So these names are typically referring to that eternal or source consciousness in some way, shape, or form. But the name Krishna is extremely unique because we're not just talking about the maintainer of the universe. We're not just talking about the Lord in the heart. We're not just talking about the infinite light. We're not just talking about any of these other divisions where it's almost like God is at the office. We're talking about Krishna where we can actually take control of Krishna in the form of a parent, in the form of a friend, in the form of a lover, in the form of these 5 major rasas that many of the other names of the divine simply do not have, but it does not stop people from attaching their consciousness to that eternal, unchanging truth. What's your thoughts there? Or anybody else?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you. Prabhu, thank you very much. Yeah, I'm left with a little bit, and I don't know if you can add it to complete the answer to the question. The part of the question was how does it work? I know you're speaking a very high esoteric platform today, but I would like to know how this vibration work on the mind. When the chanting, the vibration is vibrated, how does it have effect on the mind?
So our acharyas say that it's actually not us chanting, that the chant's actually coming from the spiritual world and then exiting our mouth, exiting our mind and then exiting our mouth. And so it is, from the way I understand it, again, it's very deep question. Again, because the mind is the source of the sound vibration, and then you get more subtles going to the actual spiritual world itself, as that mantra is coming in and penetrating all of existence, then it's just through that association of being with the divine, being with Krishna himself, it's naturally going to have a ripple effect across your entire consciousness. And that is the purification method. Now, when we talk about names of other languages, I can't really speak to them because I don't know, there's so many different languages and all that, but I look at it more as their consciousness trying to attach to that divine source. But because all of this material existence is based off of sound vibration, then that name is that natural link to purify. Just like the wood and the fire analogy, right? Where it's, you have a piece of wood and then you have the fire, you mix it together and that wood becomes fire.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Anybody else? That's the way I understand it. Any other comments? No, thank you for that question.
I think in one of the spiritual warrior series of Gurudev is unexpected, that's why I'm right. Gurudev explains the power of sound. And like His Grace PALAKA Prabhu, you were saying, Sri Prabhupada actually, in giving commentary to the Brahma Samhita, Sri Prabhupada says that this sound vibration is not material. It's coming directly from the spiritual platform. And when one hears it and chants it, it instantly has an impact on the individual. So Govinda Prabhu's question is, how does the sound have an impact? And that reminds me of, I think Govinda Prabhu himself was in the class that day. One of our senior God brothers, he was giving Sunday class, and in the middle of the class, everybody was comfortable listening to Krishna Katha. And then all of a sudden he said, hey, and everybody from their seat. It was just a sound. It says, Lucy. But the sound, snake, put so much fear into everyone. Everybody got up and was looking around. So in the same way, this sound, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And of course, like Govinda Prabhu was saying, the Supreme Lord has invested all his multifarious energies in all his names. So whatever name we have for God, if we have the consciousness behind it that we're calling on this name to get in touch with the Lord, that is how the effect comes about. That is how we feel it. That is my little understanding. And because I heard Gurudev also explain in one of the spiritual warriors how the people of Israel went around a particular temple 7 times just chanting words, sounds of God. And the temple came down crumbling. It was just words. They didn't use bulldozer. It was just words. So that tells us how powerful words are. But I think, Palaka Prabhu, if you have something to say in this regard, otherwise there is a question from Anadi Didanam Prabhu.
No, I'm good for 5 more minutes, so I would move on. Thank you.
Okay. Anadi Didanam Prabhu, please you may unmute.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandava Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Pardon me, I am in a very deep noisy place by Pangyam. So,
Okay.
Prabhu, my question is a follow-up to Prabhu Govinda's question. If the chanting of the holy name is the medicine for this age, and as a Vaishnava, we can chant the holy name, or it's working to chant the holy name and even give up meat eating, which one is even being addicted to. And there are Prabhupada also say, yes, we can chant other set of religions can chant the holy name of God in their religious set.
We can't hear you anymore, Anadi Didanam Prabhu.
I didn't get it.
Well, it's like, okay, it's back.
Yes, I'm back.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
So my question is a follow-up to Prabhu Govinda's question.
Yeah.
That chanting of the holy name is the medicine for this age.
Yeah.
And a Vaishnava can chant the holy name and even give up meat eating, which he or she is even addicted to. And Prabhupada also said you can chant, or others can chant the holy name of God in their various religious setups. That means they are also chanting the holy name of the Lord. And you can see that even though they are chanting this holy name of the Lord, but they even had heart fight. So what is the problem there? Is it that something else they were chanting, but just the Prabhupada just want to carry them along? That is why he says so. Or in reality, it's true that they're chanting the holy name of God. I don't know if my question is clear.
Yeah, I got it. Palaka Prabhu, if I may try to repeat what he just asked. He said that he's following up with Govinda Prabhu's question that in this age of Kali, the recommendation to God realization is chanting the holy names of the Lord. And Lord Chaitanya gave us the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. The same Lord Chaitanya stated that the Lord has invested all his energies into his various names. So his question is, why is it that some of us were addicted to so many sinful activities, but as soon as we started chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, we were able to give up a bad behavior like meat eating, whereas others are chanting other names of God in their own traditions. But oftentimes, the more they chant the holy names of the Lord in their tradition, the more they become hard-hearted. So his question is it really the case that the Lord has invested all his energies in all his holy names? Or Srila Prabhupada says anybody can call the Lord in his own tradition just to make people feel they are okay in their own tradition, but in reality, it's not helping them. What do you say?
We understand that with japa, with chanting, with saying kirtan, with the holy name, it's, trying to do it 24 hours a day. No, no hard and rule, no, what is it? No,
hard and fast rules.
Yeah, hard and fast rules. But the 10 offenses are there, right? Yeah. The 10 offenses are still there. And when we think about the 10 offenses, it's really talking about our day-to-day character, right? It's talking about maintaining material attachments. It's talking about offending other Vaishnavas or other saintly people, where Lord Chaitanya says, don't speak bad about anyone, right? And so I think naturally, as people are within their own traditions and calling out to God, we can't take away the fact of how are they architecting the rest of their day, right? We understand that a lot of traditions, they'll call out to God, but then they will kill on a regular basis, right? And to think that that's not going to have an effect on their consciousness is I think a misstep or a misstep. So if we're also looking at how people are, once they stop chanting, what's coming out of their mouth after that, right? We have to analyze people's thoughts, words, and deeds in relationship to those 10 offenses to then see how their relationship is with the holy name and with that divine. And so I think if you look at that aspect of people's lives, you'll see a strong correlation.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I don't know, Govinda, did you have something to say? Our speaker said he had to leave. He's actually speaking from a hotel. I hope you're not catching a flight.
No, luckily.
Okay, thank God. Thank God you're not catching a flight. But Govinda Prabhu, if you have something to say, please, you may do that right away before Prabhuji leaves for the day. We can't thank you enough, Palaka Prabhu, for
thank you for allowing me.
inconveniencing.
I think I think I didn't drop my hand.
Oh, there's a previous one.
After that question. Yeah.
Oh,
I'm good. Prabhu, thank you very, very much.
well, thank you so much.
No, thank you. Thank you for your comments. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah. You see, sometimes, of course, most of us are Africans, so we know the difference between yam and cassava, yam and yucca. So sometimes it is described as this yucca is as sweet as yam, So to those of you who may not know our speaker, I said yucca and yam, cassava and yam, because Mother Krishna Shakti Devi is like Narada Muni, that everybody knows. So I'm just saying that Palaka Prabhu, our revered speaker for today, is a little brother to a great Mother Krishna Shakti.
Yes.
And both Krishna Shakti and Palaka, if you didn't believe me, today believe me, they are all my children. They are my son and daughters. So that is how proud I am. And with that, we
Always inspiring.
we're going to humbly request all the devotees to kindly unmute, and we all chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra to express our appreciation to our revered speaker today, His Grace Palaka Prabhu Jai. Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vanchakalpatarubhascha kripa sindhya evacha patitanam pavanabhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
Nantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda ki Jai.
Jai.
Have a great day.
Jai.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Grace Palaka Prabhu ki Jai.
Jai.
No, it's none of us.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.